Hi everyone, so welcome back to Shelly's World today, and today we are going to make a brand new game sheet. We're going to color in this Brain Heroes worksheet. So the idea of this game sheet is for you to try to memorize whatever you find difficult to put in your mind. So often or not, we come across information that hardly sticks into our minds, and therefore we need some other tricks to hack our memory in order for us to remember some kind of dry information long term. So, for example, what kind of information is hard for us to remember? For me, I have been tutoring maths, and recently we came across Roman numerals. And in this topic, we had to learn what different letters stood for in terms of their numeric value. So we had X for 5, right? No, X is for 10. We have V for 5, X for 10, and then afterwards we have L for 50, C for 100, D for 500, and M for 1,000. So for those of you who are already familiar with Roman numerals, okay, you already have that in your minds. But for those of us who are new to this topic, it takes some time for us to get used to those kind of letters. And sometimes L stands for 50 and C stands for 100. These kind of things may not be that intuitive for learners at first. So with this game sheet, with this Brain Heroes game sheet, I tried to memorize L, C, D, and M for their according numeric values. So we did it in a fun way during class, and we associated each letter with an object. So we first associated the letter L with lollipops, so 50 lollipops. And then we had C, which stands for cats, and we have 100 honey cats, let's say. And then we have D, dogs, 500 fluffy dogs. And at last we have M, which stood for M&M, and we had 1,000 M&Ms raining from the sky. So with these 4 pieces of information, we began to construct a story out of it. So what kind of story would you construct out of these 4 pieces of seemingly unrelated information? So you can try to think about this in your own time. And but what we did was associate 50 with lollipops. So lollipop, we had 50 lollipops. So let's say you went and bought 50 lollipops from a Romanian lady. 50 lollipops from a Romanian lady. Okay? And then because it was so sunny at your place in your own country, all the 50 lollipops you purchased melted instantly. So there you have 50 lollipops melting. And we're now going to link it to our next number or next letter, which is C for cats. So what I came up with was that after you have your lollipops all melted onto the ground, then came 100 honey cats. These cats love the taste of honey, and coincidentally, your lollipops were of a honey flavor. That's why 100 honey cats came to help you finish the lollipops on the ground. So then, our next piece of information would be the 500 fluffy dogs. And how should we associate this with our previous 100 honey cats? Let's say the 100 honey cats tried to finish all the 50 lollipops that were melted on the ground, obviously. But then after they finished the lollipops, they were really full and they couldn't eat anything more. They couldn't like put anything more into their stomach. So they called their friends, which were 500 fluffy dogs, to come and have a party with them so they can burn some calories, and it's a win-win situation. So these honey cats called, they knew how to use smartphones, so they called their 500 friends, and then they had a nice little dance party in the middle of the street, and 500 dogs and 100 cats were dancing in the streets. And at the same time, it started to rain M&Ms. 1,000 M&Ms. Everyone was happy, and everyone enjoyed the M&Ms at the end. So now we have the 4 pieces of information. Now we have L for 50 lollipops, and C for 100 honey cats, D for 500 fluffy dogs, and M for 1,000 M&Ms. Or Mentos if you prefer. So that could be one of the ways to get the information locked into your mind. So you can see if this works for you. Of course, every story is unique to the learner, and the more ridiculous it is, I think it will become easier to remember, obviously. And these kind of exercise, I think, are really fun and really quite helpful to train our creative thinking. I'm still trying to learn how to memorize bits and pieces of, cold hard facts. And sometimes I have, problems with memorizing numbers, because apparently numbers, they aren't like images, there aren't like objects where you could just put it in front of your mind's eye. It's hard to visualize numbers. Like, what does a number 6 look like to me? So you kind of have to associate that with something else. So remember how we said 500 honey cats. So not 500. Oops, it was 100 honey cats. So there we go. So we have to sometimes remember by the pronunciation. So 100 honey cats. Maybe that would make sense to some of you, but for me, I try to adopt that method. And obviously, with more complicated subjects, this will become a little harder, because you then have to make a story that you can actually remember and actually retrieve it effectively. I'm just at the very beginning of, learning how to memorize things in this manner. But I think it's quite an art, the art of memorization. It's a game of its own sometimes, because you can associate the pieces of information with anything you wish, and there is no limit, and it's also a very personalized experience, and you can make anything out of it. Like, you can attach names of people into the story, and that will even make it more memorable to you. So it is a really personalized experience, and sometimes bugs can occur in the process. For example, as I did make a mistake just now when I said 500 cats, sometimes these things, when you're trying to retrieve the memory from your brain, sometimes you get the wrong value, and sometimes it's due to the way of how you associate the two information, because C and D, cats and dogs, they refer to 100 and 500 respectively. So sometimes I feel like I kind of mix them up a little bit. So my way to debug in some sense is to make the cats honey cats. So remember the cats as honey cats. So 100 honey cats and 500 fluffy dogs. So that may help me a bit. And usually if you give me a second or two, I usually could figure it out because I remember the sequence of the story. So I bought lollipops, then they melted, then cats came, honey cats came, and then dogs came, and then it started raining M&Ms. So at least you get the sequence right, and from that you can deduce logically that cats came before dogs, so C came before D, and so that C must be less than D. So I guess that is my first application of this game sheet, and I see more opportunities to come in applying these kind of fun ways to memorize things in the future. And this Brain Heroes game sheet can be applied to anything, so you can print however many you want and it will never get boring, I guess. So just have fun with it, and I'll leave you with the video, and let's see how I'm doing with the coloring now. So here I am doing some coloring on the topic section, and I think I'm using a dry brush, which is a preset in Procreate. I really like this brush. This is my go-to brush, and I use it for outlining. You see all the black outlining I did there. It gives a slightly a soft crayon look, or a dry crayon look, I should say. And I find that to be really natural and child-friendly. I also love the pressure sensitivity that goes with this brush. I think I slightly adjusted the pressure sensitivity for this dry brush, but I still really enjoy it. And the thing is, it kind of leaves holes within, or little gaps between my strokes, within the same stroke as well. So it gives you that really natural hand-drawn look. And most of the time when I print these game sheets, the black and white versions of it, it just looks like I did them with a marker on paper. Well, in fact, it was done on an iPad Procreate. So now I am coloring the clouds, the tiny little blobs here and there. Sometimes I need to find the correct highlighting tone and also to look for the appropriate shadowing tone. My current strategy is to go to that color swatch and then select a color that is really close to the original base color, and you see with the yellow here, and then go a little bit, go a little bit down and then select a darker tone. My strength is probably not in coloring, but I try to construct these worksheets by using 2 to 3 layers of shadings for each object. So you can see there's always a brighter tone and a darker tone, at least 2. And if I have the time, I will add an extra highlighting. You can see the highlighting dot to make it stand out even more. So keep on watching this video, and I hope that this makes sense to you. And if you ever want a PDF version of this worksheet or game sheet, let's say, feel free to access it in the website below. It will be posted on the comment section and also in the description section. So have fun learning. Thank you.